Why is it a problem that UCLA football overpays its assistant coaches? Oh, I can explain. Which new players could the Lakers afford to keep in the offseason? We'll break it down a little bit. And Austin Eckler hints at a return to the Chargers. Good morning. I'm James. This is your daily dose of sports and snark for the greatest sports city in the world, Los Angeles. This is the faithful Angelenos Morning Report. It is April 6, 2023. I am heading home to see my wife. Goodbye, Portland. See you when I see you. Well, let's talk LA sports to keep things light and happy for the day. If you like the content that we put out about LA sports, clickety-clack the like button. Clickety-clack the subscribe button. There's a notification bell. Hit that. It'll let you know when we drop new content. Sharing is caring. Let people know we exist. By all means, comment. It's once again a busy and beautiful day in LA, not up here in Oregon. So before we go through the news and notes, a look at the scoreboard. Look, the Clippers, they handled their business. They defeated the Lakers 125-118. LeBron James scored 33 points. After the game, he said, you know what? We played back-to-back nights. First night was overtime. It caught up to us. And I do think there's some validity to that. But let's not take away from what the Clippers did. Despite not having Paul George, 6 Clippers scored in double figures. Kawhi Leonard had 25 to lead. The Clippers have an 11-game winning streak on the Lakers, and they're currently 5th in the Western Conference. The Lakers are in 7th. They're currently in the play-in round, if the playoffs started today. Also, where would LAFC be without Dennis Bouanga? He scores twice. LAFC shuts out Vancouver in the first leg of the CONCACAF Champions League quarterfinal. 3-0 victory. Meanwhile, today, the Dodgers are back in action. They're going to play at Arizona at 7 o'clock. Dustin May is going to face Merrill Kelly. Both of them 0-0 so far on the year. The Kings are up in Las Vegas. Now, that game is at 7. For the Kings to have a shot at winning the division, they have to win tonight. They're just simple as that. Simple as that. But I have been looking for the perfect example. We've been talking over the last couple of weeks about UCLA football, and is the program mismanaging its money? Does Chip Kelly have a little bit too much power? I'm not saying UCLA sucks. I'm not saying Chip Kelly sucks. But I am saying he is giving fat contracts to people who are not producing. For example, former defensive coordinator Bill McGovern. UCLA's defense was terrible. Did he fire him? No. He had him a different job. It's a desk job, and he's going to keep his $900,000 a year salary. Then Chip Kelly goes and hires a guy who used to coach over at Navy to be the, quote, director of leadership. What is a director of leadership? Now, I know of a couple of Bruins fans who got on my case when I started suggesting that Chip Kelly was just throwing fat contracts around like it's free passes to the strip club when you leave Crypto.com arena, right? Well, I can tell you how it matters now. USA Today compiled a list of how much the Power 5 conference colleges are spending on recruiting. Now, granted, they had to go through public records in order to do it. USC, for example, is a private school, so they were not included on the list. But as for the public schools, how much do they pay? Well, you take a look at Georgia. They're the 2-time national champion. Last year, they dropped $4.5 million to recruit the best possible players to come to their program. How much did UCLA spend? $899,000. They are 6th, or I should say no, 6 Pac-12 public schools paid more to recruit the elite high school players in their area than UCLA did. 6 Pac-10 schools paid more, obviously led by Oregon. So in other words, UCLA is in the bottom half of investing in recruits. Now, Colorado was behind UCLA, but trust me, do you really think that they're going to go penny pinching after they spent the money to bring Deion Sanders over? So yeah, you do have to ask, Why are you spending it on people who aren't making an impact on the coaching staff when you could be using that money to recruit, right? How much more would, say, $900,000 matter? You would be doubling what you paid last year alone. You would put UCLA on par with what Oregon spent in terms of recruiting last year. And that's if you just said, you know what, Bill, we got to let you go. You know what? Maybe we don't need a director of leadership. UCLA could use that money and be on par with Oregon. That's a problem, guys. And oh, by the way, if you think about it, where would UCLA be in the Big Ten? Glad you asked. Because UCLA is moving there. UCLA would be 9th in the Big Ten in terms of, if they were in that conference right now, in terms of how much was spent on recruiting. You don't think that makes a difference? I do. As the NFL draft approaches, we're going to add more information about the Rams, about the Chargers, but also about the players leaving USC and UCLA. And I want to spend a little time talking about two Bruins and what could happen to them. I saw a Rams mock draft. Now understand, I'm not predicting anybody is quote unquote going to the Rams. But if in these mock drafts you read descriptions and scouting reports of these players, this Rams mock draft had the Rams taking UCLA wide receiver Jake Bobo in the 7th round. Again, I'm not saying he's going to the Rams, but it's curious that he's going in the 7th round. Why would that be? Well, according to scouting reports, he ran a 4.65 40. That's why. He probably doesn't have good professional speed. As for Dorian Thompson-Robinson, you could argue that the 5th year that he played for the Bruins helped immensely, because now he's actually going through his progressions in passing plays. Having said that, scouts are citing numerous concerns about inconsistent throwing mechanics. So if you're wondering about that leap that Thompson-Robinson has, most people have him as the 5th or 6th best quarterback on the board. What's keeping him away from being, say, up there with the C.J. Strouds and other elite quarterbacks? It's the mechanics. We all know that the Lakers reinvented themselves on the fly at the NBA trade deadline. They also hinted that they want to keep the band together after this year. And okay, that's actually a bit of a tough ask, but ESPN tried to break it down. You start off with D'Angelo Russell, who, by the way, said he's keeping his options open, which is fine. Having said that, the Lakers have the right to match any contract is offered to him or keep him basically without fear of what happens with the salary cap, thanks to so-called bird rights. Other possibilities? Well, the answer isn't necessarily so cut and dry. Rui Hachimura could be brought back without worrying about the cap, but is he really making an impact with the team? Yeah, when they acquired Hachimura, the Lakers needed 3-and-D guys, which he is. But he was a starter, and now he's not. So is he regressing? And if so, does that mean you want to keep him that much? Now, Jared Vanderbilt, who is in the starting lineup as a 3-and-D guy, who honestly plays a lot more D than 3, but he's still on a very cap-friendly deal next year. Then again, the questions start getting iffy about the newer Lakers who came. What about Mo Bamba? Rarely plays. The idea is that he's going to get $10 million next year, which sounds like a lot, but oddly enough, that's cap-friendly now. So do you keep Mo Bamba even though he barely plays due to injuries and whatnot? What about Malik Beasley, who shifted to the bench? At the start of the year, he was the only outside shooting threat the Lakers had. Now he's warming the pine. What about Devon Reed, who hasn't even cracked the rotation? So maybe the point being is that in order to keep Austin Reeves, who they definitely want to keep, maybe it's not about keeping the entire band together. Maybe it's just cherry picking 2 or 3 of the players that I just mentioned. Austin Eckler went on Sirius XM radio, and after a little bit of bloviating, he admitted, quote, "I guess the worst case scenario right now out of all of it, I'll come back and I'll have to play for the Chargers for a year and bet on myself and then be a free agent again next year." Translation, he is doubling down on stupid. I mean, we've gone through this whole Eckler thing repeatedly, right? He scores touchdowns, yeah, but he doesn't rush for consistent gains in yards. He's never rushed for 1,000 yards in a season, and he's pushing 28 years old. Do you think this guy's going to automatically turn into LaDainian Tomlinson overnight and just trample people? It's not happening. For that matter, he rarely passes 100 yards rushing in a game. You want to know, I keep trying to come up with ways to describe Austin Eckler. You know what he is? He's the closer. He's the closer. He's the guy who gets the final 2 yards to get to the end zone. Very much like the closer in a baseball team gets the final 3 outs. But the question then becomes, do you pay a closer like you would Clayton Kershaw? Because elite running backs, those are your aces. Every down backs who do rush for way more than 1,000 yards. That is Clayton Kershaw. But Austin Eckler is not in that level. So good luck on the open market, dude. You're going to be closing in on 30. You make $6 million right now as an undrafted free agent from back in the day. There is nothing to be ashamed of in that. You don't have to play air guitar anymore. You can buy a lot of real guitars for those $6 million. Mookie Betts might be the most athletic person in Major League Baseball, and second base does require athleticism. But are we really sure we want to keep this experiment up with Mookie at second? Mookie collided with Jason Hayward on Tuesday in the 7th inning, twisted an ankle. Now, Betts said he could still play, but the pain is going to linger. And I want to ask the Dodgers, I mean, I know they're not stupid, but you do realize you've already lost one middle infielder for the year due to injury, right? Do you really want to gamble with arguably one of the top 3 players in the game? The only people I want to see getting hurt at baseball games or at Dodger games is somebody doing the public marriage proposal thing. Yeah, please, I invite you to get steamrolled by security. Miguel Vargas did not draw a lot of walks when he was a minor league prospect, maybe 1 in 10 plate appearances. Here's a strange little note. In 3 games so far this year, he's drawn 7. 7 walks for Miguel Vargas. The black and gold, no losses. They won last night. We mentioned about how remarkable Dennis Bouanga has been. But Carlos Vela is, quote, "not happy with where I am right now. I think I can play way better," unquote. Here's why. He has only 1 goal and 2 assists so far this year. He also missed a penalty kick earlier in the year. Now, originally, I was appreciating the quotes because, it sounded like somebody who's internalizing things. How can I be better, be a better teammate, this, that, and the other. But then he talked about the team. Quote, "We know we can play better. It's not a good sign. But it's also a good sign because when you are not at your best and you're still more..." Look, the upshot is this. That quote, when I read it online, struck me as a guy. Have you ever caught yourself the moment before you say something really crass, really disrespectful? Sometimes I'm successful at doing it. Other times, not so much. But when Carlos Vela is talking about the team playing better and that it's not a good sign, can you just feel like he paused and said, wait a minute, I'm about to throw my teammates under the bus. I need to turn this one around. It's not the worst quote ever. It just basically sounds like he was about to say something bad and then backtracked. But what exactly is not a good sign for LAFC? They haven't lost yet. Take the wins, guy. Move on with your life. Chicharito has a green light to play starting Saturday for the Galaxy in Houston. Now, having said that, he's unlikely to go the full 90 minutes against the Dynamo. Look, LA needs him. Let's be real. They are winless, which is ridiculous. But I don't necessarily think Chicharito is going to be an instant solution for the things that are plaguing the Galaxy. I just don't. I imagine there's going to be at least a goal in Houston. But solve all the problems? Nah, there's some issues down there. Finally, Jacksonville has signed offensive lineman Chandler Brewer away from the LA Rams. Brewer started 4 games at guard last year. But you let me know what you think in the comments thread. Do you think UCLA recruiting is suffering because they are funneling golden parachutes to assistant coaches? Which of the new Lakers would you keep next year? And if you enjoyed this content, don't forget to subscribe to Faithful Angelenos. We're talking LA sports every single day here. Thank you for watching. I'm James. We'll be back tomorrow. Faithful Angelenos is a Corte El Queso production. Take care.